Oh, wow. Yeah, there we are. Although you're still John Cooper. I'm going to change that really quick.
Okay. Hi, my name is John Cooper, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Okay, so well, this is Badger Bites. What was it? Ghislaine Maxwell is on suicide watch, and her lawyer says she's not actually suicidal. So, for those of you who have been under a rock, this is about former British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of recruiting and grooming teenage girls for sexual encounters with Jeffrey Epstein between 1994 and 2004. Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty of 5 out of the 6 charges in her trial, including sex trafficking a minor. The jurors did not find Maxwell guilty of one count, enticement of an individual over the age of 17 to travel with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity. Maxwell's sex trafficking charge is the most serious one she faces, with a maximum prison term of 40 years. In total, Maxwell faces up to 65 years in prison when sentenced. And because she's 60, it's likely that she may never leave prison while she's alive. She'll leave it in a box. And she's slated to be sentenced June 28th, 2022, which is this Tuesday, if I'm reading all of this right. And, that summary is courtesy of The Guardian. And I just wanted to read another note from Rolling Stone. In an effort to save the skin of a convicted sex trafficker, Ghislaine Maxwell, defense lawyers say, a narcissistic father, made Maxwell more vulnerable to being manipulated by Jeffrey Epstein. Beyond Maxwell's tough upbringing, they cite death threats against her by fellow inmates and the harsh conditions she's faced in jails. And as reasons, New York City Judge Allison Nathan should show her leniency when determining her prison sentence. And her lawyer, that is Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer, Bobby Sternheim, who is also apparently a leading feminist lawyer.
She's a woman too, right? The lawyer, because I know the name. Well, her name Bobby people might think that's a man's name.
It's gender neutral, but no, she is a woman, and she has argued. She actually cited the Bible in her opening statement as the trial began, stating that women have been condemned for crimes committed by men since the beginning of time. Ever since Eve was accused of tempting Adam with the apple, said Ms. Sternheim, women have been blamed for the bad behavior of men. And she has been pursuing the "my boyfriend made me done do it" defense in Ghislaine Maxwell's case. It doesn't seem to have worked very well thus far, but it might work for the sentencing. I just wanted to point out that perhaps Eve, Adam, and the apple was not necessarily the best example to use, because Eve did actually eat the apple. She ate it first. Mm-hmm. And though she tempted Adam as well to eat the apple, which I think is incitement to criminal activity. I mean, if you translate it into legalese, so men can also be charged with that. She still did eat it first. Like, she still committed the crime. So are we just supposed to gloss over that and just say, oh, yes, this is the patriarchal trope of blaming the seductress for a man's behavior? Well, but what you're doing there is saying you're invoking this trope in order to excuse a woman for her own behavior. So it's just, do you see what I'm saying? It's just so funny.
It's funny too, because they're trying to claim that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't held accountable for his part. Pretty sure he did pay a price. I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to recent events, but
I think the price of the activity,
Jeffrey didn't get away with shit. Yeah.
No, there seems to have been a price paid there, but the argument is also that where people are holding Ghislaine Maxwell account for Epstein's crimes because Epstein isn't there to be held for account for his own crimes. But like I said, this is just the craziest kind of excuse making, because you're saying, well, yes, Eve did it. Eve did indeed eat the apple, but because we are blaming Eve for tempting Adam to eat the apple, and that is patriarchal domination of women, we shouldn't blame Eve for Adam eating the apple or her eating the apple, for her own behavior. Which is crazy.
I think that's basically just because people like this lawyer they don't actually believe the Bible, right? So they think that it's just something written by men, and that
to subjugate women.
To subjugate women. Yeah, men just made it up to control women and tell us what they think about women, which is why the story goes, that Eve is tempted by Satan, and then she in turn tempts Adam. And because of that, everybody says, like, this is Eve's fault. But ultimately, they're both held responsible, right? And because that's like why they get cast out and everything. But Christians, like actual Christians, believe that story is simply true. Even if it isn't like literally true, they believe it's true in the sense of what the wisdom that it's trying to communicate. And that is like the ways in which, like women can be tempted by the material world, and men are tempted by women. And that's, some of the wisdom that's being pushed out. But when she invokes that, she's not doing it because she believes in the story. She's doing it because she has like this tremendous disgust towards, men, and believes that men do this to women. They either do this to them literally, which I think she tries to make the argument that Jeffrey Epstein was essentially like controlling Ghislaine Maxwell, and she couldn't make any real choices because there's a man telling her what to do, even after his suicided.
Thrall was too powerful.
Yeah, his thrall was his influence is felt beyond the grave.
His masculine aura of masculinity.
Yeah, exactly.
She couldn't resist the pheromones.
I mean, but honestly, like, who didn't see that coming? Who didn't think that they were going to try and say, well, Ghislaine Maxwell's clearly a victim. Woman literally like sex traffics underage girls and helps a cabal of pedophiles, essentially. But she gets caught, and now women are most affected by this, but not by the stuff that this woman did, by what men did. Yeah, but by the fact that she's being held accountable. But there's a couple things that are pretty amusing about this, and amusing in a very dark sense, because this is dark stuff. So I don't want to say that I'm like, it's also horrifying, but yeah. But the antics around attempting to, but defense lawyers got a defense lawyer. You know how it works. Yeah, you got to do the job.
You got to do the job. But and there's some heinous people this woman has defended. But the idea that you can say, well, yes, she did it. She did do it, Your Honor. But patriarchy, male privilege, toxic masculinity, you must acquit. The end.
Really? Does she invoke toxic masculinity, or just feminist talking points? Right, I got you.
Just feminist talking points. Yeah, just like you throw them out, and women's agency goes poof, and they can't be held accountable, which is really freaking hilarious. This specifically is hilarious because it is a cultural inheritor. So it inherits from the Victorian concept of coverture, in which a woman does everything and makes every choice in her life under the guidance of her husband. So he is arrested for anything. It's assumed that he was the one who allowed her or compelled her to do it, except for maybe treason. So this is a very classic attitude in which women's actions are not their own responsibility or fault. They are the responsibility and fault of the nearest man, and the closest man to them.
Of course.
And if women, and the funny thing is that actually what really harms women, if anything in this harms women, it's not holding Ghislaine Maxwell to the account for trafficking underage girls. It's not even holding her to account for incite, and I don't even think that it was even brought up. I mean, we're just talking about her behavior. I don't think there was any kind of charge of inciting Epstein into doing anything. So nobody's actually making her responsible for his behavior. No, there are no charges laid in that. It's just her behavior. So this is this classic idea that she must have acted under the auspices of a man, because women don't take action on their own. They don't have agency on their own. Then thus they cannot have the consequences of their own actions. So the irony is that Bobby is actually appealing to a very old traditional notion of how agency is apportioned in the relationship between men and women, and how we can't see that women take action, make choices, in many cases have incredible influence over men's choices. Carla Homolka comes to mind. I don't know if you guys know that this is the case in Canada.
I know that name.
Yes, this is the case in Canada where I believe she got a plea deal, and she ended up for throwing her husband under the bus, and it ended up coming out that she played a far larger role in instigating the violence. It was sexual violence, torture, and murder against girls, including her, I believe, her own sister. And it came out via videotapes that she actually played a far larger role in instigating and planning stuff. And in fact, prior to Paul, I think it's Paul
Homolka.
Sorry, my terrible at pronouncing names, but prior to him meeting her, he had never actually killed anyone. But after, she was like almost like supercharging him and increasing the level of brutality and cruelty, and she got off. She remarried and has a kid somewhere under an assumed name. And it's that kind of thing. It's like, we just can't see women as responsible for their own actions. It's really difficult. And okay, so I just wanted to point that out. And I also want to point out, because the whole meme, Epstein didn't kill himself. We might be encountering something like that in all of this too.
Oh yeah. Should I go bring up the articles?
Yes,
I got
please.
Newsweek up, okay. Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers say the inmate threatened to kill her for money. So I think it's pronounced Ghislaine. I don't think the S.
Ghislaine.
I think the S is silent, but I might be wrong. I remember looking it up a while back, but
yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers say an inmate threatened to kill her, saying an extra 20 years in prison would be worth it for the money she would be paid for the murder. So it was a female inmate, obviously, which is actually kind of funny. I'm just picturing like Orange is the New Black type women. So the British socialite is awaiting sentencing for Jeffrey Epstein-related sex trafficking offenses after being found guilty following a high-profile trial in December of 2021. Her team has asked a judge to give her a sentence significantly below the 20 years recommended by probation officers. Amongst that evidence, they say one inmate at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, told other prisoners that an additional 20 years incarceration would be worth the money she would receive for murdering Miss Maxwell. What would you do with that money? Maybe she could send it to family or something, or her mom or her man or something. I don't know. It's weird because you're like in jail and you're going to guarantee you're going to be in jail even longer. But she was probably younger, so maybe they don't think that far ahead. A court filing seen by Newsweek read, quote, "Just recently, Miss Maxwell was the target of a credible death threat from a fellow inmate. On information and belief, one of the female inmates in Miss Maxwell's housing unit told at least 3 other inmates that she had been offered money to murder Miss Maxwell and that she planned to strangle her in her sleep. The inmate who made these threats has been moved to SHU, which is a special housing unit, presumably to protect Miss Maxwell." Well, should I keep going, or do you want to say something to that? Oh, you're muted, Allison. I don't know why you're muted, but you're muted.
This one is actually fairly okay. I was actually looking up. It's Ghislaine.
It's Ghislaine.
It's a Ghislaine. It's like a French S that it's. For me, it's probably I'm hearing it wrong and pronouncing it wrong, but
yeah, maybe
Ghislaine, yeah, something like that. I think that the rest of this is probably just summation of what's come before, but yeah, like credible threat. inmate has been offered money to, but of course that's from the defense too. So you probably agree.
Yeah. Well, we don't know how credible it is, at least not based on what we know. You could use that to, I mean, I think that there is like, the fact that they would use that though, as a means to at least separate that woman, you know, who they're claiming was planning on killing her for money. The fact that they would make that argument does kind of lend more credence to what happened. Well, what some conspiracy theorists believe happened to Jeffrey Epstein. So I don't know what YouTube thinks about that, so I'm just gonna say, yeah, it's a because like if she's in danger and the other guy, you know, he just couldn't take it anymore and he wanted to leave this world, I guess, then yeah, it just seems like that's a bit, you know, it's a bit fishy. It's a bit sus.
Yeah, I think you probably throw up the next article because I think we've.
Yeah, have we read through the most important parts of this?
We've squeezed the juice out of this article.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, so I got this ABC thing and I got this tweet from Bloomberg. Which one should I go to?
The ABC. Oh, no, the Bloomberg one. Sorry.
Okay, Bloomberg. So this is... go ahead.
The ABC one is essentially just accusers are wanting to come forward to or people or women or girls who, I suppose you have to say alleged because these ones aren't part of the actual trial, want to speak at the sentencing hearing. And Maxwell's lawyer is essentially trying to block that and just wants to keep it to the women that were part of the trial and were victims of Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. So that's what the ABC News is. I don't know if you want to go into that. It's just really interesting how this leading feminist lawyer is seeking to silence female victims because, you know, the female aggressor in this case, or alleged, well, no, actually she's convicted, so I don't have to say alleged. Yeah. The female, because she's defending the female aggressor in this case. I just find that interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, then I'll go back to the Bloomberg thing then. Okay, yeah. Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite convicted of sex trafficking with former boyfriend Jeffrey Epstein, has been put on suicide watch by federal jail officials.
Click that sucker.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go in.
So here's the Bloomberg article. Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite, convicted of sex trafficking. So she's guilty. She's been convicted with former boyfriend Jeffrey Epstein, R.I.P. Rest in power, Jeffrey Epstein, F's in the chat, has been put on suicide watch at the jail in Brooklyn, where she's been since her July 2020 arrest, her lawyer said on Saturday. Bobby Sternheim, a lawyer for Maxwell, said in a letter to the judge slated to sentence the socialite on June 28th that she was removed on Friday from the general population of inmates at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center and placed in solitary confinement. Sternheim said that Maxwell isn't allowed any pen or paper and was placed on the watch without justification and warned that she may seek a postponement of her sentencing date.
Yeah, that's one of the big things. It looks like she's going to try to not have. I'm not exactly sure how that benefits Maxwell, but try to push back the date of her sentencing so that the judge doesn't, I guess, clarify what length of time she's going to be in jail. I'm not sure how that benefits her, but.
Okay, why am I stumbling? If Ms. Maxwell remains on suicide watch, is prohibited from reviewing legal materials prior to sentencing, becomes sleep deprived, and is denied sufficient time to meet with and confer with counsel, she will be formally moving on Monday for an adjournment. Sternheim said in a letter late Saturday to U.S. Circuit Judge Allison Nathan, who's presiding over the case.
Okay.
So,
all right. So I guess the idea is that she needs to be be able to review documents to be ready for
And
the sentencing hearing.
yeah, and meeting with counsel and stuff like that. And I don't think you can do that in solitary. Is that what they're driving at?
Well, what they're driving at is that she's not going to be in position to actually function as a result of the deprivations put on her. All right, just keep going.
All
Next
right.
paragraph.
Yeah. While Maxwell, 60, was given a suicide smock, what the hell is that? It's probably made out of paper. Yeah, it's made out of paper. No. Sternheim said that a psychologist met with the socialite on Saturday and concluded that she is, quote, not suicidal, end quote. Of course. I mean, I'm not surprised. Maxwell was convicted by a federal jury in Manhattan in December on 5 counts, including sex trafficking of a minor. The verdict that was hailed as long-delayed justice for victims of Epstein, who was found dead in his cell a month after his arrest in what authorities say is a suicide. Epstein? Yeah, they're saying victims of Epstein, Maxwell, even though Maxwell... And Epstein. Yes. Well, at least Maxwell and Epstein. There might be more people involved as well. Even
no doubt. Obviously, if they're trafficked.
Yeah. No, obviously. I mean, like, we've seen stories of, like, sex trafficking with other people. I forget the woman from that TV show. I think it was Smallville or something. And her boyfriend were in some kind of cult, and it was weird. And apparently, you know, there were a number of people that were involved in the grooming and everything. But she was just like, you know, the prominent or one of the prominent figures. So, okay. So where did I leave off? Prosecutors? No, I think I read that already. No, I didn't. Yeah, here we go. Prosecutors said in a letter on Sunday that Maxwell was separated from other prisoners after she sent an email to the Bureau of Prisons Inspector General's office claiming to be in fear for her safety. They said she was removed from the general population in order for her claim to be investigated and that her sentencing shouldn't be postponed because she still has access to her lawyers and legal papers and can prepare. She probably didn't want to be among the rabble. Well, you know, something else I was thinking about too is that, like, I wonder how many women, like, inmates know about her case. Like, they, you know, that they're aware of it. Because I know in a men's prison, if a man goes to prison and he was like a pedophile, a rapist, or an abuser, or at least that's what he's convicted for, I guess the other men, well, he's obviously in danger because those men in prison, they hate those kinds of men, you know, and it could be really bad for him. So, of course, he's not going to be able to make these same requests. Well. I would guess so. No, especially
they can make the request be put in protective custody. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
If they fear for their life. So let's keep going.
All right. Ordinarily, an inmate making such claims would be put in a solitary cell within the Special Housing Unit, or SHU, but jail officials placed Maxwell on suicide watch due to concern that she was at, quote, heightened risk of self-harm, end quote, given her upcoming sentencing and sex offender status, prosecutors wrote. Sounds like someone over there is paying attention to patterns. As a result, they are not comfortable placing the defendant in the SHU, but they also need to remove the defendant from general population to investigate the threat she reported. Prosecutors argue that Maxwell deserves a term of as many as 55 years behind bars for sex trafficking schemes involving 7 victims. Well, I'm sure it's higher than that, but she has asked for a prison sentence of less than 6 years, arguing that she had to endure unduly harsh conditions in jail. Well, it's called jail. It's not a hotel.
Yeah, she's in what they term solitary confinement. It might just be the defense, her lawyer, playing it up a bit, and she said that she's being forced to eat rancid food that doesn't jive with her vegan, her fleshless menu choices. So it's you know, if that's true, it is pretty. And also, when she's given recreational time, they give her ill-fitting shoes, so she has difficulty running.
That's not comfortable.
The prosecutor, I believe it was the prosecutor, notes that in the appeal for a lighter sentencing, Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't seem to be apologetic at all. Of course, I'm guessing she's maintaining her innocence because she was in the thrall of Epstein.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
I got a super. Oh, go ahead.
Cool.
I got a super chat. No. Okay. Zeranx gives us $5 and says, "Is Ghislaine a socialite? I'm unsure as to whether she is or not. What does the article say, Brian?" I think he's being sarcastic because they mention that she's a socialite like every time they mention her. Like,
what the hell is a socialite?
Is that a job? It's not a job.
Yeah.
It means that you get around, I guess, and you know people.
One prominent and fashionable society. Why wouldn't you just call her a madame or a sex trafficker?
She might as well. How about that?
Yeah.
Why don't we call her a sex trafficker?
You know,
yeah.
More often, like I know Jeffrey Epstein actually was a financier, but she has no other occupation and she sex traffics. Call her a sex trafficker. So a person of social prominence considered to be an influential figure.
Yeah, what's wrong with you guys at Bloomberg? Aren't you guys pro sex worker? I mean, isn't that kind of what this is? She's a pimp.
Oh God. Oh, this is just it's gross. All right, so that's this. Let's keep an eye on this and see if Maxwell gets Epsteined.
Well, you know what I've been. So these trials, Ghislaine Maxwell's trials, are not they're not good making the rounds because they weren't allowed to be televised. I think it's because it's a law to do with the kind of trial and where it is, things like that, right? So a lot of people are trying to make comparisons to the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial to say, well, they put that on TV, why didn't they do that with this? But it's not because they're trying to hide this. It's because there's different rules and laws around whether or not you can do that. I mean, Depp's team had to fight to get cameras in that courtrume. The
judge wanted to do it. No, it wasn't that.
The judge wanted to do it.
Did it. The judge did it. What happened was Amber Heard's team wanted to fight to stop it. So I'm not sure if Johnny Depp's team had to fight her, the Amber Heard's team to get cameras in, or if she just said, yeah, it's fine. And then the judge was like, yeah, no, we're going to do this. Over their objections. I think their objection was that there was a sexual crime at the heart of the case, but the judge said, well, that doesn't apply because this is a civil suit, and then went forward with putting cameras into the courtroom. Yeah. So, and thank God for that, because I think this has been a huge red pill in the original Matrix version, not the red pill pickup artistry stuff. It's been a huge red pill for a lot of people, lot of people, and a lot of women too, which is really remarkable. Like the viewership, the female viewership on the main channel, I don't know if this will sustain, but it's shot up to like 25% now, which is really fascinating to me. And some of them seem to be subscribing, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Maybe they just needed. There's a whole bunch of women who are just tired of this how men are being treated, who just needed a big profile case to sort of galvanize, all those stray thoughts in their head about male victims of domestic violence and media manipulation and narrative and all that kind of thing. Who knows? We'll find out, I guess. See, maybe it's a little bit of a white pill. All right. So unless you have anything more you want to say, or
let me check to make sure I didn't miss anything on Rumble. And
okay. Well, while you're doing that, I just want to remind everyone that we are doing our monthly fundraiser. We only have a few days left, so please, please, please do take the time to go there and put a few shekels in the hat. $5, $10, any amount helps. And it's really appreciated because we've been going for something like 9 years. We have covered all kinds of issues from this perspective. We are a treasure trove of history when it comes to this particular side of the abyss, shall we say, media abyss. So make sure that we don't fade into the twilight, shall we say, and go to feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz and help us out. All right. Anything more?
No, I guess I was just gonna add that, like I said, you just be adamant. If you're curious about this case, look at you can still find people reporting on it, but you're not gonna get it to be as televised and as mainstream. But it is important, and I'm hoping.
I wonder what went on behind those doors.
Oh God, I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. Like we'll never know. I want her to name some names. That's what I want. I don't know if they're gonna get names. That. Yeah, like fucking give up the ghost. Just admit it and just tell them everything they need to know. I know that there are powerful people that are probably like shaking in their boots right now, but name some names, Ghislaine. You still have a chance to redeem yourself. Okay, so that's basically the only thing I wanted to say. I just hope that this goes somewhere. So
yeah. All right then. And again, if you want to send us a message, you can do that at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very appreciated. And back to you, Brian.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about today. What do you think? Is she, feeling suicidal? Like, what are her odds? Just let us know in the comments. And if something were to happen, is there someone else like in line that should be investigated? All right, with that said, and most importantly, like I said, leave a comment, but also please share this video because sharing is caring. It's super important. It helps us out. It helps us reach more people. And, it's the best thing you can do if you can't support us in any other way. So thank you guys so much again for coming on today's episode of The Badger Bite. And we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.